Hello, everyone. Hi. Thanks, everyone, for coming. I'm really excited that we've got a sizable crew, even though this classroom is pretty much impossible to find. I don't know whether anyone else struggled to find it. Yeah? So congratulations, you passed the first test. You can find a classroom in the middle of nowhere. So as you can see, this will be all about doing user research or UX research in Web3. We're kind of going to use those terms interchangeably. And I'm not doing this myself. There's another person. You wouldn't know because she's hiding right behind me. And we're going to walk you through this beautiful journey of doing user research. QR? QR. Yes. So because it's a workshop, you don't have to only ask your questions using the Meerkat app, but feel free to do that. Like, we are gonna check the app, and at the end, when we're doing Q&A, if there are any questions there, we will answer them. Yeah. So let's get started. Whoop. Nope. Yes. These are our names. Hello. Just to give you an idea of what this is gonna all entail, we're gonna start with an intro, and it's already happening, so look at us, doing great. The first kind of half of this workshop is going to be a crash course in UX research. So what it is, how to do it, what tools to use, what not to do, that's also an important part of it. And then the second half will be an exercise when you can apply all these facts that you learned today. And then we'll have some time for Q&A. All right, so let us tell you a little bit about ourselves. Mindy, please emerge from your cave and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm also here. My name is Mindy. I've been working in UX since 2017, working in Web3 for about 3 years now. I am the senior UX contributor at CowDAO. We are building several products, including CowSwap, which you may have heard of. Didn't get any applause, that's sad. Thank you. Cow team, are you asleep? What's going on? Yeah, and then my lovely assistant here, not assistant.
Wow.
Co-host.
Yeah, so my name is Kristina. My pronouns are they, them. And I've been working in crypto since 2018. Most of that time has been at Gnosis and then Safe. This is where we hear thunderous applause for those companies. Yeah. Mostly as a UX researcher, and I'm based in Berlin, as you can tell from how I look. All right, so now you know a little bit about us, but we want to know about you.
So yeah, raise your hand if you feel like you are a complete beginner in terms of understanding UX, user experience. Anshu, put your hand down. Okay, very few people. Okay, that's really nice. Raise your hand if you feel like you have like a pretty good understanding of user experience, user research. What was it?
Can we go back to question 1 if you're a beginner?
Oh, okay, okay. Back to question 1. Raise your hand if you feel like you're a beginner in UX. Okay, a few more people have decided they feel like beginners. Raise your hand if you feel like you understand UX pretty well. Okay, all right, pretty good. Raise your hand if you have already done user research on a Web3 product.
Oh, wow.
Okay, nice. Yes, cow guys, come on. Okay, good. So yeah, so the ones already doing research, great. It's good to see you here as well. This talk is going to mostly be sort of basic logistical information, how to get started doing user research, but I think there will be useful tips for people who are at any level of doing user research or learning about user research.
All right, so let's get down to business. What is UX research? How does one do it? All that good stuff. So UX research is all about understanding your users or your potential users in order to make better product decisions. That's the purpose of UX research. There are many, many ways you can do it, and there are kind of two main types. There's quantitative and there's qualitative. For quantitative, you usually need more users for it to be statistically significant. 40 is about how many you need, for example, for a survey to be valid. And this can tell you how many people are having a certain problem, how much of a problem it is. So if you want to quantify certain facts that you already know a little bit about, that's a good type of method to choose. There are many ways you can do quantitative research. There are surveys, card sorting, tree testing, benchmarking. If you have no idea what these words mean, don't worry. We're not going to talk about those today. Spoiler alert. Then there's the qualitative side. So there, you can get lots of information from just talking to a few users. So 5 people already provide lots and lots of useful information for you. And the kind of questions you might get answers for in terms of qualitative research is, why is this happening? Why are our users behaving a certain way? How do we fix that? Is this solution suitable? How do people feel about it? And common methods for qualitative research include user interviews, usability testing, diary studies, field studies. Again, this is not an exhaustive list at all. People have been really creative in terms of coming up with different ways to conduct research. So, as you can see, this is an impressive list. Because we have 2 hours, we're going to do these 2. This is what we're focusing on today. And the good news is these are quite easy to learn, and you can get a lot of value from doing this kind of research without spending too much time on it. So let's start with user interviews, what they are, and how to do those.
Yes, so user interviews, I like to summarize user interviews as the art of caring intensely for the space of like 30 minutes to an hour about how a total stranger thinks and feels. So the way I will kind of illustrate this is, you know how that feeling that you have when you're falling in love with someone, or you're really infatuated with someone, and you just met them and you just want to know everything about them, and you just want to hear everything that they think, and like every sentence out of their mouths is so interesting to you. That's how you need to feel about your user, just for the space of an hour. Afterwards, you don't have to care about them anymore. But for the space of that hour, you have to care so intensely about what they're saying. That's the mindset that you need to be in order to do a user interview effectively. And what I mean by that is that user interviews basically are a way of uncovering your users' needs, uncovering their pain points, so that you can optimize your product to fit them. So the goal is to learn as much as possible about this person's thoughts, fears, wishes, needs, habits, as related to the area, the topic of study, so that you can build a product that will make their lives easier and make them want to use it. What do you need to do a user interview is basically a list of questions. You need a participant, obviously. Ideally, this would be somebody who is a user of your product or somebody who is a potential user of your product. And then you need a way to take notes or to record the conversation. What can we learn from a user interview specifically? So from an interview, we'll learn what this person's needs and wants are, what's important to them, what people aren't getting from existing solutions that are out there, which could potentially be advantages for you, and then also how people make decisions about which products they use and the trade-offs associated with using different products in Web3. Now, if you sit down to write a list of interview questions for a user of your product, you might be tempted immediately to ask things like, will you use this product? Do you like this product? Isn't my idea really great? And those are all terrible questions. Don't ask them, ever. The goal is to get people to open up and share anecdotes from their lives. This is not like a Q&A interview or like a survey. This is really, you want them to be talking more than you're talking. You need to get them engaged in the conversation, thinking deeply about their answers, and telling you, oh yeah, and then there was this one time where this happened and that's happened. That's when you get really interesting moments from their lives where you're like, okay, they actually really had a problem here, and I think maybe we can solve this problem. So here are some guidelines. Whoops. Here are some guidelines for writing these kinds of questions. The first one is to ask specific questions. General questions get you general answers, and you don't need general answers when you're building a product. You might end up with something like, okay, so I spoke to 10 users, and they all told me that they use exchanges a lot. Great. Well, how does this help me build my product? Compare that to something more specific, like I spoke to 10 people, and 8 of them used an exchange in the last month to swap meme coins. Okay, that gives you more information about what people are actually doing, and then ideally you get the why about that as well, and then we're getting into the really interesting specific data that can help you market your product or build your product to suit a particular audience. You also want to ask open-ended questions as much as possible, not yes or no questions. At the end of the interview, you don't want a list of checkboxes, yes, no. Again, you want those really detailed stories from their lives. So you really want to ask open-ended questions so then that the participant can take that question and start answering and then snowball from there and take the topic into wherever they want to take the topic, to wherever's really interesting for them or where they really have a problem to vent about. Another one is don't ask leading questions. So people will pick up if you have some bias. Everybody has bias, obviously. We try to keep that as low as possible when we're doing research. But if you ask biased questions like, crypto is pretty complicated, huh? Then you already have put that idea in their heads. Maybe they weren't actually thinking that crypto was that complicated. Or maybe they want to go along with what you're saying. They want you to feel comfortable. They don't want to stand up against what you're saying, so they'll just go along with that. So you instead want to ask a very neutral question, like maybe how would you rate the complexity of crypto, and then see what they say about that. Another is that you want to ask about past experiences, not future predictions. In psychology, we know that people are pretty bad at predicting their future behavior. How many of you have ever sworn that you were going to start going to the gym regularly and then not done it? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Everybody here goes to the gym regularly.
Another thing about user interviews that sometimes people lie.
Yeah, as we see here. The point is that people are really bad at predicting what they're going to do in the future. They might have intentions to do something, but it doesn't mean they're going to do it. And they might do things that they had no intention of doing. So it's always better to ask about what people have done in the past, rather than asking them to predict their own future, which nobody can really do. And then the last guideline here is to always ask follow-up questions. And this is where we really get into that part of being in love with the user, because they say something and we don't just say, okay, yep, that's all I needed, thanks. We continue, okay, why did you do it that way? Oh my gosh, that's so interesting, really. Would you do it again the same way the next time, or would you do something differently? If you could wave a magic wand and make it different, make something different about this experience, how would you do that? Can you imagine a better experience? Can you imagine a worse experience? Can you compare it with other experiences you've had? Any of these follow-up questions that comes to your mind is useful, and it helps make that person feel like what they're saying is important, and it makes them want to talk more, and it gets you really, really in-depth, qualitative data that you can then use in your product building. And Kristina.
Smooth transition. So that was user interviews. Now I'm going to talk about usability testing. So there are some similarities. You are still talking to a person, but if you think about what you just heard about user interviews, you really, really care deeply about this person. You want to know everything. You ask them all kinds of questions. You're really engaged. You're really present there. Usability testing is a slightly different vibe. So with usability testing, you're watching someone fail, and you just gotta pretend like you don't care at all. You do care. Let's be clear. In order to do good UX research, you need to have empathy. You need to really care about how people feel, what their struggles are. That's all true. But on your face, ain't nothing happening. So try to cultivate some kind of inner serenity. So someone stumbles and you don't help them up. They ask for directions and you don't provide any. It's kind of a struggle at first for some of us, but that's really how you get the most valuable insights. We'll get into details about why in a moment. But first, let's talk about what you need to do usability testing. So unlike user interviews that you can just do, sitting in a cafe with someone, for usability testing, you need a little bit more of a setup. So you need either a live product or a working prototype. And when I say working prototype, I don't mean it's, implemented in any way. It can be just a series of clickable screens in Figma or something like that. That's totally fine. You also need a list of test scenarios. We'll get into that in a moment. Again, a participant. It's kind of sad to be just sitting on your own, trying to imagine things. Side note, AI is not a participant. You need a human participant. So same as with the user interviews, it needs to be either someone who's already your user or is similar enough to someone who your user might be. And you need a way to take notes or ideally record the screen as the participant uses the product, because that's how you're gonna really see what they're doing, see what they're clicking on, see their thought process through the way that their cursor moves. That's all super, super useful stuff, and you don't want to miss it. And that way, you kind of will be able to uncover those problems with your design so that you can improve them in terms of clarity and flow and ease of use. So what can you learn from usability testing? You can see what it is about your product or someone else's product, can be a competitor, that makes people struggle or get confused or make mistakes. So this is where this stumbling thing comes in. That's actually good. Like, you want to watch people struggle, because if someone does everything in 3 minutes and has absolutely no issues, I guess it's good because you found the product is easy to use, but you don't get any insights in terms of what you can improve. And your goal is to come away from the test knowing, okay, this screen is confusing, here the button is hard to find, the text makes people think that the feature is not what it actually is, all of those things. So it kind of counterintuitively, you want people to struggle. But you can also learn what people like about the product. They might just say, oh, wow, like this really makes a lot of sense. I was waiting for this feature. I've heard that many times. It always is super nice to see people excited about something that you're building. And also, you can get ideas about what else to build. So how to build maybe the V2 of the feature that you're thinking about. So all of these you can uncover. So what do you need to have in order to do usability testing? You need to get your participant to navigate the UI. And if you're doing it online, which I think is how we mostly would do it, hello? Yes? Great. Let's maybe exchange this one. Thank you. Perfect. Where was I? Yes, so if you're doing the test remotely, have the tester share their screen so that you can see what they're doing, because that's where you get all of those valuable insights. And ask the participant to accomplish some task. Maybe task is not even the right word. It's more like a scenario. More on that very soon. Again, it's important for you not to interfere as much as you possibly can. Do not nudge the tester to a certain correct path. Do not guide them as much as you can. If you see someone really, really struggling, you can ask, but wait just a little bit longer, even though you're like, oh, this is so obvious. If you just like clicked on this button, you would get everything you need. Don't do it. Don't do it. Observe what the user does, because that's how you uncover what your users are likely to do in the real world, and see how they solve the problem. And that will help you understand how to improve. So unlike user interviews where you can just kind of go right ahead and start interviewing the person, before you do usability testing, you need to prepare the person for how that's going to work. Because it's slightly unusual for someone to just sit in front of you or even in front of their computer and do this kind of fake-ish scenario and pretend that they're accomplishing something. So you need to get them in the right mindset. Tell them to just think out loud and be completely unfiltered. If they like something, if they don't like something, they should just tell you everything. And tell them to even pretend like you're not there, not in the room or not on the other end of the Zoom call. Just your goal is to have them act as naturally as possible. It's hard, and there's always going to be an element of awareness of being observed, but as much as you can encourage them not to do that, you should do it. And remind them that you're testing the UI, so the prototype, the product, whatever it is, and not them. This is very important because people get self-conscious. People start worrying that they're making mistakes. People are starting to think, oh no, I messed this up. This person is going to think that I'm stupid, that I don't understand things, but I'm so smart. I've been working in this industry forever. How do I not get this? People get it in their head. That's normal. That's why it's important to remind them, this is not about you. This is about the UI. If something about it sucks, we'll fix it. Don't worry. And also, you can even tell them, I didn't even design this, so you're not going to hurt my feelings if you hate it. Even if you did design this, say that you didn't. Because that just puts people at ease about criticizing something. Not everyone is comfortable with that. And if it's a prototype, make sure to mention that it's a prototype, because some of them are pretty high def and people assume that they can just click on everything. Most of the time that's not the case. Make sure people know that. Okay, so now we get to the tasks things. So as I alluded to, don't think of them as tasks, because tasks are kind of efficient, and that's not your goal. Your goal is to get someone to behave naturally, and people aren't always very efficient the way they do things naturally. So how to write out a test scenario? Choose a flow or a feature that you want to test. For example, it's a really, really important flow for your product. So if you're just starting with testing, it can be, I don't know, for a wallet, sending money, checking balances, connecting to a dApp, stuff like that. It can be a flow that you know is a particularly tricky one or a really, really risky one. It can be a flow or a feature that is new. So once you kind of get into the rhythm of doing UX research, when there's a new feature coming up, that's a great moment to do the testing, because that way you uncover problems before the feature is implemented, and you change the design in advance, so you save time. Or you can test changes to existing flows that users are already comfortable about, but it might be different, so you want to make sure that it stays comfortable for them. So, as I mentioned, scenarios are not tasks. So don't say, OK, so now click on the sign up button and fill out the fields with your information. That's not a scenario. That's an instruction. And the goal of a scenario is to give the tester the minimum, absolute minimum of the required information and learn how they approach the scenario, how they would do it, given their own understanding, their own assumption, their own habits. So, for example, if you're testing an exchange, you can say, OK, imagine, it's often good to start the test scenario with imagine. Imagine your favorite token just dropped 20%. You want to take advantage of this opportunity to buy more. How would you do that? So you see it's kind of phrased more like a question, like a hypothetical scenario, and that invites your tester to do whatever it is most natural for them to do. And then you learn about how they would do it in your actual product. Or if it's a wallet, you can say, hey, imagine you made a new friend at Devcon, stayed out all night talking about ZK proofs. Now you need to pay him back for dinner. How would you do that? And then you sit back and observe. There will be struggles in usability testing. That's kind of the name of the game, as I've been telling you. And there are different ways to handle those struggles. So, for example, the participant can ask you a question, but not just like, hey, what's your favorite color? It's like, how do I do this? Or what do you want me to click on? Or where do you want me to navigate to? Or if I do XYZ, what will happen? And this is the moment for you to tap into that inner serenity and be like, that's a great question. I'll answer it at the end. But for now, just do whatever feels right. I want to learn about your assumptions, your habits, what you would do. If you have any questions, at the very end of the test, I'll answer all of them. If the participant seems confused, which most likely they will be, you can kind of nudge them to explain a little bit more about what is causing the confusion. So you can ask, what do you think is happening? Like, I see that you're wondering about something. I see that something is giving you pause. What do you think is the issue? How would you solve this problem? Because sometimes, especially if it's a prototype, you can't really do everything, and people normally would, I don't know, close the app, open Stack Exchange, ask a question there, or like Google something. So it's good to also give them space to tell you about that. And so if the participant is really, really, really struggling, so they're about to lose all of their money, rage quit the test, and you can see that they're just not getting anywhere, you can say, all right, so I think I got the information that I need. Would you like some help? Don't say the thing that needs to happen right away, unless, again, like they're about to click on the button that is going to destroy their life forever. Unless that's happening, just ask, would you like some help? And then let the person tell you. Or you can just say, OK, let's pause with this one and go to a different flow, do something else. So this was the overview of usability testing. But these principles apply to just doing UX generally. So studies show, it's not us saying this, people have looked into this. And the study shows that for usability testing, just 5 participants is enough to uncover about 85% of the issues, as long as those participants go through the same flow. So if you're giving people the app and saying, oh, can you use it for a bit and do something, then no, 5 people aren't enough. But as we said before, you need to be specific with your scenarios, with your questions. So as long as you're specific and you give the same scenario to everyone, 5 participants is enough to uncover a lot of the issues. That being said, you need to make sure that you're testing with the right people. If you go out into the world and your product is geared towards protocol developers, for example, and you get 5 casual Coinbase users that like have heard about MetaMask, your insights will not be relevant to what you're building. You need to make sure that you test with the right users. And finally, we love UX research, like that's why we're here, but it can't answer every single question that you will ever have. It will tell you about user needs, habits, motivations, pain points, that's a lot, but it cannot tell you for sure whether your product will be successful or whether a particular feature will be actively used by everyone. That's just, there are some limitations to what you can accomplish with UX research.
As you're going into starting your first research studies or continuing the research studies maybe that you're already doing, it's important to keep in mind, especially in Web3, that Web3 users are very privacy conscious, as they should be. They're often very suspicious, especially of things that sound too good to be true, of offers for money in exchange for doing something, of random people sending them messages on random platforms, again, as we all should be. So it's very, very important. It's important in any area of research, even if you were doing e-commerce or something like that, but it's especially important in Web3 that you give users as much information as you can up front, that you're very upfront about what it is you plan to do, what it is you plan to ask of them, what it is you plan to do with their data, and that you keep the requirements to join your study at an absolute minimum. So some examples. The first thing we want to do is you want to inform somebody when you are approaching them or when you're putting out a call to recruit participants. You want to inform people what's going to be involved. Are you going to require them to show their faces on video? Are you going to require them to speak? What language are you going to require them to speak? And do they have to speak perfect English? Do they have to share their real name? Do they have to share their real wallet address? Do they have to share their screen? Do they have to connect their wallet to a DApp? Do they have to do a transaction with their wallet? Do they have to, will you take a recording? Where you will store that recording? All of these things are things that people need to be informed about up front so they can make that informed decision about whether it's worth it to join your study. And so then it's best for you if you have kept those requirements at a minimum so that then people feel like, okay, I've been told that if I join this study, I don't have to connect my wallet to any DApp. And so if I believe that, then there's very low risk for me, right, to join this study, okay? And then you're more likely to get participants. If you expect people to, just hop on a Discord call with you and share their real wallet where they have all their money and, connect to your DApp, that's probably a hard sell. Also, make it available that people can ask to request deletion of their data that you've taken from them, or the notes that you've taken from their study after a certain point. Let users give consent granularly. So ask them not just, yeah, these are my requirements, do you consent to these? What I typically do is say, hey, I would like you to share your screen. I would like to take a recording of that screen and of your audio. But you can consent to these separately. So you can consent and say, yeah, I'll join your study, and you can watch my screen, but you can't record it. Let people consent granularly to each different thing that they're willing to share, and that also makes them feel a lot more comfortable joining your session. And again, keep it loose if possible. If somebody says, no, I really don't want you to take notes, or I really don't want you to record, then just kind of be willing to say, if possible, be willing to say like, yep, okay, you know what, that's fine. I'll take notes by hand if you're willing to kind of slow down and speak slowly so I can take those notes. And people will be understanding of that. Another is that if people are going to be doing a transaction for this test, you need to provide them with gas. If they're going to be swapping funds for this test, you need to provide them with the funds for swapping. Never expect people to use their own funds to join this test of your product. That's not ethical, and it's just also kind of a bad sell. It's a hard sell. So yeah, always make sure that if you're providing funds, also provide gas funds as well if they're necessary. If they're sharing their screen, let them know that they only have to share the tab that your dApp is in. So a lot of people will just automatically share their entire screen, which means if they switch over to another tab, if they open another app, if they open their MetaMask, you can see all that. You can see what's in their MetaMask. They probably don't want to share that with you, so guide them to only share the tab that is relevant for you. And then, yeah, keep info sharing requirements to a minimum. Tell them they don't have to share their name. Tell them that they can refuse to answer a question if they don't want to answer that question. Phrase questions in ways like, would you be comfortable telling me? Or would you mind sharing, how many, the size of a transaction, how many dollars you trade in a typical transaction? Some people don't want to share that. Some people are fine with it. It's best if you phrase it in a way that lets them know that they can say, no, I don't feel comfortable sharing that. And that's fine. And then, again, in any area of user research, the #1 golden rule is always, always, always compensate your user research participants. They are sharing their time with you. They are sharing their knowledge. They are sharing a piece of sort of their daily behaviors, their thoughts with you. This is super valuable information, especially in Web3, where, again, there's a lot of emphasis on the importance of data and how we all have the right to our own private data, right? So this is extremely valuable information they're sharing with you. They're doing it so that you can build a better product. And the absolute #1 thing that you have to do is make sure that they are compensated for their time, whether that's crypto, whether it's some other perk that you can offer them related to your product or whatever. Make sure that it's something that's worth it for them. I think this is your area of expertise.
I mean, it can be. I think I know what I'm talking about. I don't know whether you can tell. So let's talk about tools. So all of these things, you need to accomplish them somehow. And we've got some recommendations. You don't have to follow them exactly. You can also do your own research, see what works for you. But just so that you can have a certain idea of what we personally prefer, here are some suggestions. So in terms of recruiting users, that is quite tricky in crypto, again, because of privacy considerations, because a lot of people are kind of anon. But there are plenty of options. So if your project has a Discord, you can use it to recruit your users. So the way I sometimes do it is that if I'm researching a particular feature for Safe, I search the feature name in Discord and see what people have asked questions about it. And that way I know, okay, this person cares enough about this feature to ask a question about it. They are probably using it at least a little bit. They would be a good fit for the test. You can do a pop-up in your dApp and just encourage people to sign up to do research. You can try a dedicated recruitment platform. There's even a crypto-specific recruitment platform called DSpark. You can try that out. You can also try out general user research platforms, but they are very unlikely to have advanced crypto users. So most of the time you would get people who have some crypto on Coinbase, have maybe a tiny bit of experience with MetaMask, but nothing more advanced than that. You can recruit here. Like, there are plenty of people. And you can get to know someone, ask them what their struggles are, ask them what they're using in terms of wallets or exchanges or whatever the product is that you're working on. And if they seem like a fit, you can ask them whether they'd be willing to talk to you about your product. For getting consent, a survey tool usually works quite well. So I can do Google Forms or Typeform or SurveyMonkey, whatever it is that is easiest for you to get a hold of. Totally fine. For conducting user interviews or tests, Zoom is a good option because most of the people know about it, they're familiar with it, they have it set up often, and you can easily record the call. For scheduling, you can use Calendly. That's a nice option, but whatever Zoom's internal schedule or Google Calendar, that also works. For keeping track of your tests, and that seems like an unusual thing to mention, but trust us, you want to keep track of what you're doing, because at first you'll be able to remember, and then fast forward half a year and you're like, did we test this feature? How many people saw this? Did we talk to this guy? I remember his name, but did I pay him? How much did I pay him? I don't remember. Keep track. So note who you talk to, when, about what their contact info is, whether you've paid them, and a spreadsheet tool like, I don't know, Google Sheets, Notion, Airtable, any of those are more than suitable. And then for analyzing your notes and recordings and kind of storing them somewhere is, I would say, the first area where you might want to get a specialist tool. So all of the other ones I've mentioned so far, you're probably already familiar with. You've used them for other non-UX researchy purposes. For storing and analyzing notes and recordings, it's probably worth it to at least look into a specialist tool. Both Mindy and I use Dovetail, and it's not the only one at all out there, but it's quite easy to learn, and it has a free version that has plenty of features that should cover you if you're just starting. All right, we've been talking for a very long time, and you're probably sick of our voices. We're going to talk some more, but now it's going to be different.
It's not over. It's not over.
Yeah, I'm glad that someone was like, oh my God, yeah, they're going to stop talking.
We're going to be talking, but we're going to be talking directly to you. Okay, that was, yeah.
Oh no, never mind.
I didn't like it, so I gave up immediately. So no, but I do want to ask a question. So how many of you have a project that you're working on right now that you would like to do user research with? Okay, excellent, perfect. So what we're going to do now, we're going to do a group exercise. I'm going to let you group up with people at your table. You can group up with like the whole table or just half the table, or talk to people. It's a conference. It has the word confer in it, like talk to other people. So.
And this is a workshop, so you can workshop things with people.
Workshop things with people. Oh no,
people are leaving. They're like, no, I can't talk to people.
All the antisocial people are leaving. It's fine. I would be leaving too if I weren't up here. Oh, okay. We have a few antisocial people who are staying. Y'all are the real MVPs. Give it up. Yeah, so I will ask you again to find a few people at your table that you can do a little bit of work with. Together with your group, you will pick a project. It can be one of your projects that you're working on, one of you at the table is working on. Or we will give you an example project that you can just sort of imagine that you're working on. And we will ask you to create a research plan for that project so that by the time you leave here today, you will have a ready-to-go research plan, and you could even start doing research on this project here at Devcon with potentially real users. Yeah, so where's the clicker? Here's how it's going to work. First, I'll ask you to pick a project that you want to work on, our project that we're going to give you, or a project of someone at your table. Then we'll ask you to choose one of the two methods that we explained today, usability tests or user interviews, whichever one seems more relevant for the project. And then we will ask you to make a research plan. And Kristina will be handing out the guidelines here for how to do this. As they hand those out, I'm going to be explaining a little bit more about what is in this research plan. And I got to do the clicker as well. So first, you'll need to think about what is my project? Which method are we doing? Then you need to think about what are the goals of this study? What do we aim to learn from this research? Is it, people's general thoughts about this area? Maybe if you're working on a DAI project and you want to learn people's general thoughts and like experiences with AI. Maybe it's more specifically like I have a project, I have a prototype, I have a UI, and I want to know where people are struggling to use it. Yeah, so like what are your typical goals? What are the criteria? How will you recruit users? What will you have users consent to? How will you get their consent? How will you compensate the participants? Again, very important. And then as well to plan out the research interviews. And Kristina and I will be walking around as you go ahead and get to work and answering your questions during this process. Can I just stick it like that? Okay. Huh? If you need to refer back to any of the examples that we gave, any of the information that we shared during this talk, you can scan this QR code and find all that information in a Medium article as well to help you out.
Okay, is anyone missing these or wants an extra copy? Okay, one here, one here. Go. Coming up. If anyone wants more at any point, just let me know. Hey, so in about 10 minutes, we'd love for some of you to share what you have been thinking about, like things you have come up with, things you maybe still have questions about, things you found trickiest, what you've discussed. So let's take another 10 minutes and then we'd love to hear from some of you. All right, all right. So we are really. Hello, everyone. Hi, hi, hi. We're really curious to hear what some of you came up with, like what products you decided to research, what research plans you've come up with. Would anyone be willing to share what they've discussed so far and how that went? Like, this is not a quiz. We're not gonna grade you on how well you did. But if you want some feedback, we'd be happy to provide some. We're just curious how this has been going for you. Anyone willing to share? Just a little bit. Yay! Thank you so much.
I did both. I did like brief interviews and then let the users test out the product. That was not the activity. Well, I executed the plan. So it was really insightful for me because, first of all, what I really liked is that I had like two different culture users, because that was really interesting to me, what differences they could see on my product. No, I asked about. First of all, just so you know, my product is an NFT platform that donates funds to environmental conservation projects. So I got a really good insight of like what are the incentives that people have behind purchasing NFTs. We also did a lot of technical issues that I hadn't seen before. I could see, and also like I had a good insight that like foreigners are interested in Latin American art because it's different. It's not like something that they usually see on other NFTs. So I thought that was really cool. And yeah, thank you so much, both of you, for helping me. And that's it.
Yeah, thank you. I like that you mentioned that you uncovered some technical issues. That's kind of the unintended bonus often of usability testing. You just find a lot of bugs, and often after usability test, I have to write to some of our devs being like, oh, also this happened, do you know why? And they'd be like, oh, I've never seen this, interesting.
Yeah, devs cool. Like when user research happens as well, because then you find a bunch of bugs for them to squash.
Yeah.
For a certain definition of like.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to share? Yay! Awesome.
Test, test. Hello, everyone. Hi, my name is Tiha. I'm a UX designer. So the project that we're going for is the Beta Basque Example project. So we're going with user interview as the research method. And our research goal is to understand what problem users have when creating a wallet. And for recruitment, our target audience is basically novice users, basic crypto knowledge, but crypto enthusiasts. And recruitment, what does it say here? Okay, how will we recruit them? We have a few options here. Conference, Web3 events, Reddit forums, and Twitter. And as for consent, how will we consent participants? Since we're using in-person user interviews, we'll ask them to consent for voice recording, note-taking, their time, and also if they prefer a one-on-one session or an interview with a lot more people. So,
can you tell me about that with one one person or many people?
Yeah, one-on-one, if they prefer a one-on-one session, like a private session, or if they're open to sharing their details with like other people.
I see. So
yeah, for example, if we're doing it at a conference or events, there might be people around. So yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
And then for compensation, we're going with a few options: either our own token, NFT, access to side events, yeah, swags, or airdrop.
Yeah. All of these are great.
Yeah. So for the interview itself, the duration would be between 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so these are the questions that we would ask. So the first one is, what are your goals getting into crypto? Second, which digital assets are you interested in? And then tell me about a recent Web3 product that you use and why did you choose to use that specific product? And
Yeah, that last one is a really good one because you kind of asking people to just tell you about their recent experience. Recency is good because they still have a lot of memories about what just happened.
Yeah.
And then it's specific so that they don't have to imagine things or lie to you just because they want to fill the space, you know.
So, and then this is kind of like a follow-up question to that question. Briefly explain a recent problem that you have with that Web3 product, and what do you wish they would have done better? Yeah, that's all from us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh.
Over here.
Hello, I'm Hussein, founder or developer of CampusArc, which is a decentralized learning management system SaaS for companies and communities. We are the first LMS on Edu chain, and we chose usability test, and there will be 5 scenarios, and for each scenarios we will provide them 5 or 10 minutes. And actually I will use this plan for my friends. I will start my friends in school. So I will ask them like follow the most basic flows. For example, registering, verifying your identity, and our course modules, registering ARC modules, because it's a bit maybe a bit complicated for non-crypto users. Because to register an ARC module, you need to stake a sort of token that's determined by the publisher of the ARC module. So criteria is being student, community, or company, member of company or community. So yeah, I've written 2 scenarios for now, but we'll complete them. First, onboarding process, explore the onboarding process, try to first verify your identity with Open Campus ID, on-chain verification, using your wallet or email. It's important. It makes so easier to onboard for non-crypto users. And then here are the required gas funds. Let's try to register for an ARC module. And then third one, maybe go through the ARC module experience and tell me the difficulties or the good parts you have experienced. Fourth, maybe in each ARC modules, there are some parts that you collaborate some people. You give some feedbacks, their codes, they give feedbacks to your codes, and what's the general, it's a bad question. What's the general experience you have? I will make them specific. It's maybe fourth one. And fifth one, maybe in CampusArc, you can register some talent programs called ARC talent programs. That's organized by Web3 companies to explore the best talents. These programs include some ARC modules to complete. Each ARC modules have 3 or 4 projects to complete. So the whole idea of the ARC talent program to make it easier to explore talents. So, like there is a proof, right? Completing many projects that's determined by the company itself, right? So I will ask them to join ARC talent programs and ask some specific experience details. So it's all. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing I will say is that it can be really hard doing usability testing with your friends because it's even harder to pretend like you can't help them or even harder for them to pretend like you're not there. So you really have to tell them in advance, like, listen, during this test, I'm not your friend.
Yeah, I will definitely say it. Actually, I'm planning to like open the screen record and leave them by themselves. So yeah, I will get some consent about it.
Sure.
Okay, it's an important point, by the way. Thank you.
I also wanted to ask that, add that maybe doing all 5 scenarios is a bit ambitious. You'll be surprised how long it sometimes takes people to do what you think of as basic tasks. So definitely, like, try going through everything that you want your testers to do, and time yourself. And if it takes you, someone who knows the flows, a while, budget for maybe 3 to 5 times longer for your testers. So it might be necessary for you to prioritize a little bit and be like, okay, all 5 will take a while. And usability testing is quite tiring, both for you as the moderator and for someone who's like, oh my god, what do I do? I don't understand anything. So try to
I want to
pick the ones that are most important. Just focus on those.
Yeah, I want to all of them in one session. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who else wants to share?
We already have someone with a mic.
Oh, excellent.
Hey. Hi guys, I'm Pranay. I had a big team here. So I have a few designers here, and Devrel, and there was this DeFi guy. So mixed bag of team, mixed bag. So we have an alpha product. We're from 42 Money, and we're basically trying to build decentralized front ends for smart contracts. And we really haven't figured out who the users are currently. Like we're in an impasse where we can, go into different directions. So we're still trying to figure that out. So we started with usability testing, but then we pivoted to user interviews. And what we found was that initially the users were hackers, DeFi analysts, right? They could, just prompt the LLM to be able to generate front ends for smart contracts, like directly interact with smart contracts, right? So found a lot of useful things from this exercise. For example, DeFi analysts need a little more interactivity with drag and drop. They need a little more interactivity with drag and drop options like components. They need a way to be able to research where the yields are coming from, like DeFi Llama maybe or something like that. And the UX guys, they had suggestions about having the Twitter feed of the smart contract that you want to interact with as social proof as what is exactly going on, right? So, and data about the smart contract is also useful. like security and risk about the interacting with the smart contract, and then generating the front end for it. So yeah, so basically found out a bunch of things useful, and yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Anyone else wants to share? Yay.
Hello, everyone. We did a tiny little bit of usability testing here. So
Oh yeah, you also just went ahead and did the
yeah.
thing.
We just did the thing.
That's cool.
Did the thing. So for you to understand the context, I work at a Graphene OS, which is what we do. We do an alternative Android. If you ever used Android, there are multiple different types of Android, and we have our own type of Android. And so very recently, I helped our project to work on the setup wizard thing. If you ever heard about it, setup wizard is the very first thing a user interacts with when they open up the phone. So, and we've decided to do a tiny little bit of user experience testing, and thank you very much for doing that. Because my friendly colleague has never ever used an Android phone, as far as I understand, right? Okay. Long time ago, yeah. Yeah, very long time ago. So, but yeah. No, it's really good because it's amazing to see people with different perspectives on things. And so here are a few things that I can say about our setup wizard. For example, when the user first sets up the fingerprint for their phone, it's usually a good idea to show them like an animation, right, to show where the sensor is. But it's still not clear, and the animation might not be clear, and or other stuff. So like not everybody knows every single phone. Not everybody knows where all the sensors are or what kind of sensors are. So it's very complicated. And so if you never ever I'm so sorry. I'm jumping from place to place. Yeah. But it's one of the things that we'll work on more is to show a better fingerprint animation so that the user would know where the fingerprint sensor is located. Yeah, this is one of the things, and I think I should probably stop now because otherwise I will talk a lot more, and this is like the first part of like my 2 pages. So yeah, thank you. That was really fun.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Hey, hi. So we had a lot of help from the guys here. Actually, we have a game we would like to create, and where they pinpointed the first thing that maybe if we think something is an issue or a need for users, we should ask them. So, for example, we thought that ownership of assets, digital assets, is a key question, and it turned out even in this table, it's not a key question for everyone, even though they play. So, yeah, that's maybe the colleague here phrased very correctly that we started too technical. So we started that we must implement NFTs, we must implement blockchain, we must implement our own coin or whatever, our own economy, and it's not sure we have to. So yeah, I think I learned this, and it's back to the basics. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Glad-
I just want to add
Glad it was useful.
on the motivation of the game. They are building a Web3 game, so they could own the collectibles. So we wanted to get users who experience spending a lot of time getting collectibles and losing them because the company goes out of business. I don't know if you want to add something.
No, times and money.
Okay, thanks. I guess that's all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else wants to share anything? I think.
Do we have any questions on Meerkat?
Yeah. So apparently, you know how at the beginning, those of you who are here from the very beginning. You know how we told you that there would be a QR code for you to ask questions? Well, that was a little bit of a lie. There was a QR code, and you could submit questions, but apparently they didn't go to the place that we could actually see. So if anyone submitted questions, it's too bad because we didn't see them. Yes, you have a question? Yes, please go for it.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
So, you guys said that it is important to find the right customer to interview with. So, how to find the right customer? Because maybe we choose randomly 5 customer. Maybe they're just a small group of our total customers. So, do we have any rule or do we have any anything to define out the right customer?
I can start. So the 5-person rule is for usability testing. The reason why it typically works for usability testing is because usability testing is very much based on like psychologically how a person understands a UI, how they react to certain things. And so people who are in fairly similar buckets will typically have the same reactions and the same understanding of those things. So if these people are already your users and you do a usability test with them, it's typically 5 people is okay. So that's the first thing. Now, if you are looking at a larger group, like a very large user base, and you want to do like user interviews, or if you're just choosing people off the street or choosing people at Devcon, you probably want to write some criteria, and that depends on really on your business, like what you're trying to do for your business. So if you're building a game and you're trying to learn, you know, why some people don't play Web3 games, then you want to look for people who don't play Web3 games.
But who do use Web3.
But do use Web3. Like, why are these people doing Web3, but they're not doing, you know, Web3 games? Or if you have a large, you know, like I can talk about, you know, at the DAO that I contribute to, we have an exchange platform, for example, and many different people go and do swaps on the exchange. So when we're doing user research, we have to think about, okay, if it's for a specific feature, then we want to talk to maybe people who use that feature. If it's for, you know, if we're interested in how to improve the product for people who do very small trades or for people who do very large trades, we need to look at the data and try to find the users that do those kinds of trades. If we're interested in going on a different chain, if we're adding a new chain, maybe we're going to add base and we want to like understand base users, then we need to find people who do like Web3 users who do swaps on an exchange and use base. So like the criteria can add, you know, depending on how specific you need to be for the particular project. I probably have something to add.
I think you covered most of it. The only thing I would add is that there is essentially no way to avoid some element of randomness. Like you said, if you just pick 5 of your users, isn't that kind of random? And you should have criteria. You should be aware of, okay, what exactly you want to test or interview about and what kind of users care about this the most or could care about this the most. But if you already done that, you've defined your criteria, you've searched for those particular users, there will be more than 5 most likely that fit those. And there is an element of randomness, and that's okay.
Yeah, user research is not an exact science.
What do you mean?
I mean, even in the, you know, especially when we're talking about qualitative research. If you're talking about quantitative research and you're trying to get a really statistically significant sample and like, you know, look at large amounts of data, then things are different. But with qualitative research, it's qualitative, it's subjective. It's not an exact science, and some things will be random and some things won't exactly fit, and that's just kind of part of the joy of doing this work. Actually, you have to be comfortable with things not always fitting together perfectly.
Yeah. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi. How to create user research on a product which primary focus is not the UI, but rather providing some functionalities. Like imagine AWS without the UI. Everything that it provides, but without the UI.
Well, so what, can you give
I mean, when I said UI,
example.
without shiny buttons, like you can still use the terminal, you can still call some APIs, basically you can still use the product, but there are nothing like the login with, I don't know, buttons for input fields. It's basically pure the functionality. Yeah.
Yeah, so how to conduct a research for a toolkit, for example. Well, again, it depends on what kind of research we're talking. If it's an interview, then you don't need the UI at all anyway. And if you want to do some kind of usability testing, you actually don't necessarily need, you know, your typical like login page for it to be usability testing. Some people do usability testing with, you know, vacuum cleaners. We happen to work in an environment where everything kind of has a certain number of familiar elements, but that's just because we're all kind of in this same context. But you can do usability research on this chair if you wanted to, as long as you ask someone to use the product in whatever way that makes sense, like using the terminal or coding or using the developer documentation, anything that might be involved in that, you will still get information on, okay, this is a struggle, this is where someone gets confused, they have a certain expectation and they think that something will happen and it doesn't, or they're like, oh, I wish I could also do this. So you'd still get all of that valuable information even if there's no like sign up
But
button.
is it realistic? Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask next. Like, is it realistic to do it live or just tell them, okay, when you are done with using it, checking the documentation and everything else, just please then provide the answer on.
So maybe you can think about what do you care? Like it's like that they can integrate easily your product, that they think it's a great product. Like which problem do you want to solve for them? Maybe if there's a market for that. Once you have that clear, maybe you can design an exercise with these people, or like a survey with this target group, where you would gather this information. Does it make sense? No.
I mean, the first part is perfectly clear. Like, okay, you know what you need to do. But then, when you create the product, like that part of testing. Because, I mean, you mentioned the videos, audio, I mean, that lasts for an hour or two. But basically, to read through the docs, to try it out, it takes much more time. So I'm not sure if, can we do it, just sit here, this is the laptop, please do it, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 hours. I mean, do the people test the product live for 4 hours or not? I don't know. Or basically tell them, okay, please do this whenever it's comfortable for you, and provide us the feedback sometime in the future.
So I would say that if you're doing feedback afterwards, then an interview is actually a good way to do it, because often, you know, you send out a survey, like a feedback form. People don't like forms. People really, really don't like filling out forms. And if they can avoid doing that, they probably will, especially if they need to like write text. Oh, forget it. So here you really might want to get those people as close to the moment that they did use the product as possible, and then ask them, okay, think about the moment that you used our product, let's say yesterday. Was there anything in particular that you struggled with? Did you notice anything missing? What was the point where you're like, oh, they have this thing, isn't that nice? Was there anything that surprised you in a positive way? So kind of just try to get people to reflect on that experience, and that might be a better option, because sitting somewhere with a person for 4 hours, it can be done, but it's kind of an intense thing to do. So maybe not necessarily the right way to start, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we are incredibly out of time.
We have 1 minute left, so anybody has a quick question?
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
no, 2 people have a question. What are
I
we
mean,
gonna do?
we'll be still here, like outside of the classroom, if you want to talk to us afterwards. But yeah, if someone wants to do a super quick question, then yes.
Yeah. This will be super quick. Yeah, so basically we are at an impasse where we're trying to figure out with the product where we have like sectors of users which we want to target, and if you want to target a specific sector, then we need to build the product a little differently, right? And we're trying to decide which path to take from user experience and user design. Like how do we do that?
You're so sneaky. This is not a quick question.
This is not a question.
we will answer it outside of the classroom. Thank you so much to everyone who came and stayed.